tell you that we have a new treasurer, Mark Taylor, who has kindly agreed to join us and help us get our accounts into really good order. And I'm very excited about him. And we're on.
We're on, yeah.
Taylor, who has kindly agreed.
It's worth mentioning twice.
It's worth mentioning.
So,
It's live in America.
right, so there's nothing worse than hearing your own voice coming back at you, is there? Have you had that on the
2 seconds later as well.
Yeah, 2 seconds later. So, yes, and I do need to say thank you to Penny. Penny here has, as well as taking the minutes, has been the vice chair for the last I think it's about 8 or 9 months. It feels like about 2 years, the way we've worked together. And we've had a great time working together, and it's been very wonderful and very strong. She's been a great supporter to me. And I'm really going to miss you, and I'm slightly concerned about what's going to come of me. So
I'm not going far.
I am becoming slightly gushy. And Penny, I'd like to give you those just as a sign of appreciation.
Thank you.
I'm not going to kiss you. But thank you. The vice chair thing is for me is a sharing thing. It's a team effort being chair. It's a little bit arduous for one person, and kindly David here has agreed to step in and be vice chair with me and be part of that chair team. So that's me done. Thank you very much. Thank you for all those people. I'm going to move rapidly on because we haven't done the minutes yet. So can we have the minutes of the last meeting? Has anybody seen the minutes? And can we agree that the minutes are an accurate representation? That's the wrong minute this time.
Yeah.
Yes, says Des. Right. Is that okay? Right. We'll do that. Are there any matters arising from the minutes of the last meeting? The last AGM, that is to say. Okay, no. I need to tell you about changes to the council management. I've already done this to some extent. In fact, I've already done all of it. So item 6, changes to the council of management. Can we take that as read? Financial statements. So it's been a very different year at the Plough financially. We were last year was pretty bad. This year's been this year's been similar. Last year, the year we're talking about, 2020 to 21, March 21, the year ending, was the year of COVID. And I think it would be fair to say that it was very challenging. So let me read what I put here. The total income for the year was £533,000, which was 2015 less than the previous year. Now, given that the income from the Plough's normal charitable activity had fallen by 86%, the reduction in revenue would have been enormously far more had it not been for the government furlough scheme and increased support from local authority and Arts Council grants. So we need to express our gratitude to the government-backed Culture Recovery Fund and the National Lottery for the support given to the Plough during COVID. It's fair to say that if it wasn't for these grants, the Plough may not be here now as a trading company. In awarding us the Culture Recovery grant, the Arts Council, which awarded it, recognised us as an important partner in delivering their agenda in the southwest. And that's a great step forward for us. The money that they granted, was spent on a range of artistic and community projects and supported core funding in a period where we had no or little ticketing income. We also received generous financial support from Torrington Town Council, Great Torrington Town and Lands, Torridge District Council, Barnstable Town Council, and a fund called Garfield Western, among others. These were grants that were not tied to any particular expenditure and resulted in us finishing the year with a net surplus of £164,000. That means that we ended the year with £164,000 more than we started with. Largely because a lot of the time that we had planned to put on events that would have been challenging for us, we found we suddenly couldn't do it because just on the day we were going to open, lockdown kicked in again. So we ended the year with £164,000 better off than we were at the beginning, which is great. Some of the money, about £65,000 of it, was spent on essential refurbishment, including the toilets and the fire doors, which are pretty important as well. Not as exciting as the toilets. Some of it was set aside to cover unforeseen costs for when we reopened, including trading losses, anticipating that we wouldn't cover our costs from the ticket sales. It will also be used to invest in making the Plough sustainable for the long-term future, and this business planning initiative that I mentioned earlier is part of that. So, together with the pre-existing reserves from the previous year carried forward, gives us a very strong financial base to start at the start of this current financial year. So, the picture is good, and the picture is very strong financially, thanks to the grants that we were very fortunate to receive. Can I have any questions that you might have on any of that before we move on?
There's one from the floor here.
Quick question. Is there any prerequisite requirement for the grants, or are they sort of free and clear? Do you have to fulfil anything?
Indeed, yeah. So the Cultural Recovery Fund and the National Lottery Fund are prescriptive in what you can do with them. These particular ones, because they were given in the spirit of understanding of lockdown, were actually rather less prescriptive than they usually are. They're usually often given for a particular project. You do the project, you get the money for it. In this case, they were slightly less prescriptive than that, and indeed we were able to cover core costs, as I mentioned earlier, that is to say overheads, running the building, paying salaries, from these grants, which we wouldn't have normally been able to do. But they were still restricted, and we had to spend them in order to, if you're given the money, you're expected to spend it, not hoard it. But there are other grants that we were given that are not restricted. So, for example, every company in the country, I think, received a thing called the Business
Recovery
Recovery Grant, was it?
Fund, I think.
Which was it's about £25,000 to use as you see fit in order to free your business to recover from the trauma of COVID. And there are other grants like that, which we were able to use to do things like the refurbishment of the building. and some of it we would set aside because we knew that when we anticipate when we open, it's going to be difficult to bring audiences back in, and if we're running socially distanced, we have reduced capacity. So at that point, we're going to be making a loss. So, and in anticipation of making losses, we've set aside a buffer to allow us to do that. And we've called it the Plough Survival Fund, and it's there.
Can I just ask who asked the question, because I can't see?
Oh, I'm Susan Luciani.
Sorry?
Susan Luciani.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thanks.
Any more questions from the floor? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Susan. So that's the financial statements. We have to reappoint as a formality, the independent examiners. Our independent examiner is RT Mark from Bideford, and I'm a little bit unsure. Can you help me with this one? Do we know the fee that they charge, or do we just have to appoint them? Oh, you don't know.
It'll be the same as, I think he said he'd do it for the same as last year. I think it's in the account. The number is in the account. It's not exorbitant. It's probably a lot less than a lot of other charities our size pay. So I think it's quite reasonable. I think it's something in the order of a couple of thousand, isn't it?
I think that's 3, isn't it?
It's 3-3.
Oh, right.
3-3.
I'll change that. It's quite expensive.
Okay, actually, what happened? I can tell you this. I think it was originally set at about 2,000, but there was a lot of additional work that they had to do around the grants and around reporting of the grants, and we had a lot of meetings about it. And in the end, Ed said, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to charge you a bit more." Now, I think given the amount that accountants charge, he gave us a substantial discount, and B, forgot to charge for quite a lot of the time. So, so I think it was extremely good value. So, if we say it's 3,300, are we able to agree that we reappoint RT Mark as our independent examiners? Would somebody like to propose that? Thank you, Des. And somebody like to second it for? Thank you, David.
All right.
Which one?
Right, David. This one here. All right. Can we? Is there anybody objects to this?
Point of information, it is only the council and management who can vote.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, good point. So, is there anybody who objects to this? But people could still object to it,
People can make
and we'll listen. Yeah.
votes, you know.
Okay, so that's taken. Thank you very much. Richard, can I invite you to make a brief report?
I will. Thank you. First of all, can I thank the trustees? It's been a tumultuous year, and we owe them a real debt of gratitude. They have gone beyond the pale in the work that needs to be done. And not just the people here, but the people who had retired after many years of long service for the Plough. So we really need to thank them because they were strained to the nth degree by the whole of last year, really. And it's fantastic that we've managed to survive, and also that we've got some good people on board still to see us forward. I didn't really think I'd have anything to say because I thought, well, we were shut, not much happened. So what have I got to say? But then when I started writing things out, I thought, well, actually, we still managed to do quite a lot of things. So shall I whiz through these things? This is kind of it's in the trustees' report at the beginning of the account, so you can see this. But I won't read it all, but I'll whiz through a few sort of highlights if that's okay. And clearly the year was completely dominated by COVID, and it actually did threaten the existence of the Plough. There was a point when 80% of our staff had been made redundant, and we were looking at each other. There was high drama, there was tears, it was grim, and we really thought the Plough was going down the pan. There were points when that looked like it was the case, and it was really, I suppose, thanks to the furlough scheme and the other support that came that Hugh mentioned, that we're still here to have this meeting. the Arts Council, National Lottery, Garfield Western, all if they hadn't funded us, we would have become insolvent quite quickly. I normally go through the film fees, or the film and live event figures have sort of grown gradually over the years, and so after 19 years of steady growth, suddenly the audience has gone down 92%. The previous year we had 39,842 people coming to films and live events, which is one of our sort of core metrics for measuring things. It's not all that we do, but it's kind of a key number. And that had gone down to just over 3,000 last year for obvious reasons. Previous year we'd shown 390 films. Last year we showed 17, and hardly anyone came. The audience for film reduced by 99%. The live events, we had, instead of having 296 that we'd had the year before, we went down to 63. So that had reduced by about 88%. Plough Youth Theatre and Outreach workshops and performances went online, and we, I think Sophie, our Youth Theatre and Outreach Director, I think she was the only person who actually stayed employed full-time all the way through, and that was important, so that it was a lifeline to people with whom she was working, and credit to her for sustaining what must have been tricky, working with young people and people with disabilities, etc., additional needs over Zoom. The online provision was particularly appreciated by adults with additional needs from Plough Prism, Motion Dance, and that included Plough Prism's work on the film The Quest to Demon Mountain, which was written by one of their participants, Rachel Summers. And also the young members of Plough the Future organised 15 free online workshops, and the Youth Theatre worked on Witches Can't Be Burnt as part of the National Theatre Connections project, which was later performed on April the 10th via Zoom. Alison Whittle continued with Plough Capella, and we set up an online project, and they created a really beautiful new song, which if you search Hidden in the Music and have a look at it, which over 1,000 people have done, you can still see that online. Becky Driscoll and Nick White did a project called Spring Listen, which encouraged people of all ages to record spring sounds and take photographs during their lockdown walks, and use them as inspiration for a virtual spring soundscape performance with music, sound and images. And the National Lottery Community Fund funded these free workshops. Investment in live stream technology enabled us to stream some events to appreciative audiences. This response to a live stream classical concert on the 6th of November last year was typical. May we congratulate you on presenting the classical concert with Toby White and Marina Staneva. We were thrilled, I don't know if they speak like this, but I'm just... We were thrilled to sit and enjoy their beautiful music from our sofa. Obviously not like being present with the artist, but certainly the next best thing. We enjoyed both pieces, although my favourite was Debussy, Nocturne and Scherzo. It was as if the instruments were talking to each other. A big thank you and congratulations to both artists. So that was it. It was kind of, we offered that kind of artistic lifeline through the intertwiddle, which people were able to enjoy during the depths of lockdown. We'd planned an open-air season of 40 open-air performances at 15 regional venues, all cancelled due to COVID. And then once restrictions were eased at short notice, 22 socially distanced shows were reinstated at 7 of the venues, and 2,327 people were thrilled to be able to experience live theatre in the open air. I remember people leaving in tears just because they were experiencing being part of an audience. It was one of those kind of real moments. You know, I've never seen that before. They weren't crying at the play. They were crying on the... Well, they may have been, but they said they were really moved by... Don't tell the actors and directors. But they were moved by just being part of an audience that was applauding, and it was sort of like, it was like a sound they hadn't heard for a long time. Some shows, such as Heartbreak Productions' Alice in Lockdown, were artfully created to reflect the current times. And it was particularly special, that show. It was a really kind of cathartic thing between the actors and the audience. There were only 2 actors who were in a little bubble themselves, and it was great. And I should really thank all the volunteers that turned out during that period as well, because we had to, we'd send box office teams and raffle sellers and all the rest of it. And we invented a new way of doing a raffle, a kind of a hands-free, touchless cash raffle, which is one of those things that's kind of like outdoor seating outside pubs. It's probably going to stick. We'll probably stick with that way of doing some of our raffles. As Hugh mentioned, the planned reopening date on the 5th of November turned out to be the start of the second lockdown. So we burnt the banner that we paid for, and and closed. Specially socially distanced indoor live performances and film screenings returned for 21 days from the 10th to the 31st of December. And we had a popular 3-day Christmas craft fair in here which supported local artists, and they sold, I can't remember exactly how much, but I think it was £8,000 or £10,000 worth of stuff went within just a few days. A real bright spot was the International Poetry Competition, the Plough Prize, and we had the biggest number of entries, having nearly not done it and thought, oh, it's just too much hassle and we can't, it was a struggle. Jill Clayton-Gibbons administered it, and we had 2,856 worldwide entries, which was well over 1,000 more than we'd normally have. So it was a fantastic fundraising event. Roger McGough judged it, which I think lockdown was part of the reason for the success, also the fact that he was probably plugging it on his Poetry Please programme. That's hard to say. And the winner was Stacey Forbes for her poem Speaking of Trees for Suzanne and Peter. And a lovely young woman called Rose Proudfoot drove all the way from Manchester to read her poem House That Sank at the event with Roger McGough just 2 or 3 weeks ago on the 28th of October. And the third prize winner was Sarah Wimbush for her poem Shelling Peas with My Grandmother in the Gorgio. I can't never say it. Gorgio lands. Yeah. And she sent a film of her doing it, and we showed the film up on the screen, which was great. And Rose read the other poem. Rose, who's on Box Office, read the winning poem and read it beautifully, actually. Prior to COVID, our welcome manager at the Plough St Anne's in Barnstaple, Sharon Dixon, had initiated a dynamic programme of events, workshops and exhibitions, including many extremely popular history walks and talks across North Devon. It's a thriving enclave for the arts in Barnstaple, and it persisted throughout. She did really well to keep it going through some of the lockdowns, and because it was a community building, she was able to open it. I'm saying this, Sharon's here, you could be saying all this already, but okay. And so it was able to open when the Plough actually legally wasn't able to open, so that opened up opportunities over there. And Barnstaple Town Council, who own it and fund it, they renewed the contract, and that started in May 2020. So we've got a new 3-year contract to run that venue, which is great. And the workshops all proved incredibly popular, many selling out, and the Plough at St Anne's closed again when Devon entered Tier 3 on the 5th of November, and it opened again on the 5th of December. Many patrons and workshop providers there have expressed their sincere gratitude that the venue opened and programmed socially distanced events in between lockdowns. One lady in particular stated that she moved to Barnstaple by herself a week prior to the first lockdown and had been incredibly lonely and isolated, but she now meets up regularly with another workshop attendee for lunch. And that's a really good example of something, I always say this, it's something, it's hard to measure that, isn't it? But for that person, that is a powerful thing, which wouldn't have happened without Sharon's programming, that venue being there, and us being solvent and open to operate it. Mm-hmm. The converse of that is, sadly, we lost the Plough at St George. They turned their 200-year-old theatre into 4 extra ensuite bedrooms, which you can understand it. They're probably doing very well, but it's a bit sad, really. But there we go. That's the end of a sort of 3-year era, which was we developed a whole programme of music, comedy, all sorts of things over there. But we are now hoping to work with South Molton Town Council, and they've let us drop off our stuff in the assembly rooms. So we've got we've got a corner already. So we're hoping that can be the base camp. It's like sending in the engineers, isn't it? And then we'll mission creep from there on. The gallery programme was curtailed due to COVID, obviously, but in December there was a mixed show by artists whose exhibitions we'd been forced to postpone. I mentioned the craft fair already. Most of the visual arts programme went online, including commissioning Paul Seed, importantly, to record lockdown live, which will be, one of those things where his photographs that he's taken will be, they'll be interesting they are interesting now, but they'll be even more interesting possibly in 100 years' time, I guess. And an intergenerational dance project, with commissioned music and 6 films with 3 artists whose shows had been postponed. We were also able to commission artists such as Joff Winterhart to work with Marland School and Kev Sutherland on the Youth Takeover programme. The gallery films, including Paul Seed's photographs, attracted 8,500 Facebook views. And 7,500 people viewed a little film that we made, an ostensibly rather boring film, telling people how we were going to deal with COVID and the fact that they'd have to be wear a mask and do this, that and the other. But it sort of went semi-viral. I think there's probably other venues looking at it thinking, we better do something similar. So 7,500 people watched that little film.
Are you nearly done?
Yeah, I am nearly done. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all steady. Box office sales, steady. During the lockdown period, several building projects commenced. We've already celebrated those, so that's good. And finally, at the end of the year, there was a core staff team of 9 people, 5 full-time equivalents. We lost our cafe staff at that point. That had to stop the trading arm. And we've also had freelance artists and workshop leaders working with us. And I want to pay tribute to the many long-serving and committed members of staff who retired, resigned, or were sadly made redundant during the year. And that includes Caroline de Groot, our long-serving film programmer, Julie Cook, our long-serving marketing manager, Roger Marsh and Daniel Owen, our customer liaison team members, and Tina Marie Barnett and other cafe staff who ran the cafe. That's me done. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Trina, would you like to? So, if you don't know Trina is our new operations manager. Trina Jones has been with us for 2 months?
3 months.
3 months. Yes, 3 months. And has bull in the not bull in the.
How charming.
Trina is somebody who gets jobs done. So welcome, and it's great to have you.
Thank you very much, and nice to meet you all. I can't compete with Richard, who's obviously been here for 20 years. Also, I had no experience of the financial year to which you are actually reporting. So, does that pick me up? Anybody think I didn't work in theatre? Yes, so coming in on the tail end of what has been a most uncomfortable period for everybody in the performing arts, it's challenging, and there's still an awful lot to do. And having lost such a significant amount of people, that happily, one thing I've taken on is HR, so I'm very pleased that we've got new staff. We have a new technical and building team. We've got a new marketing manager who started 2 weeks ago, bar supervisor, customer liaison staff, and those of you who've come in for a coffee, you'll have met Charlotte, who's the new cafe manager. So quite a lot of HR management and onboarding has been going on. There's a lot of work to be done in the world of sort of policies and health and safety, so that's quite a focus of mine at the moment. And as Hugh has rightly pointed out, we are in the process of developing a business plan to see us through to the 50th anniversary, and also to help us cope with what historically has always been a challenge here, and that is balancing the books. We are purposefully looking at a business plan that allows us to stretch our wings a little and to hopefully attract some further public subsidy. So I hope that's music to your ears that might be the case. Mm-hmm. And I think given the political climate of North Devon or Northern Devon at the moment, and the view of the Arts Council and the local authorities in developing a bigger cultural ambition for the area, it's probably timely that we're plugged into that. We're hoping to adopt a slightly more sort of strategic and focused marketing strategy. For very good reasons. It's been a very broadcast activity in the past, which you're probably aware of, and there are a huge amount of events that go on here that require pushing. But actually we feel that the challenge for us is to look more broadly at audience development and bringing a more diverse and a larger group of people through the doors here. So that's very much a focus of ours. And we'll be tightening up on our accounting procedures so that we have got accurate and timely information to hand all of the time from all parts of the organisation, because obviously that's been a challenge during the period of lockdown as well. And just to add that, to add to everything that's been said about volunteers, hugely important to this organisation. In fact, I started here more than 30 years ago as a volunteer. I know the value of that journey, and we'd like to, probably in Q4 after Christmas, to look at a slightly more diverse volunteering programme that might might attract a more diverse group of people as well, some younger people. We'd like to definitely bring some younger people through the doors. We're also talking about setting up a creative network here that is kind of just an open forum for creatives in this area. We've got a lovely building, we're very nice people, and we look forward to welcoming people through our doors to network and talk about collaborations and projects. So that's all from me, but you can ask me any questions. I might not be able to answer them.
Thank you very much. We do have time for some questions if there are questions for Trina or for Richard or for any of us. So please would you have a think, and if you want to ask questions, now's your moment.
Can I just throw in a quick one? My comments were related to the year that finished at the end of March, and when I mentioned the staff that had left, I was talking about the staff that had left in that year, and I'm looking here and realising that I didn't mention Sophie because she's only just left, so I'll be mentioning you at the AGM next year, Sophie, if I'm still here. But thanks to Sophie, because she's done absolutely fantastic work, and it's taken 3 people to replace her.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you for that, Richard. Yeah. So pause for questions from the floor.
Not exactly a question, more a comment that all these COVID recovery grants and the Arts Council England grants and all the other grants, it kind of sounded as though they happened and fell into the plough, but they were an enormous amount of work from a very wide number of people. And a lot of midnight oil was burned producing the words, the spreadsheets, the figures, and knowing what we could ask for
Yeah.
likely be successful. And I think the recognition has to be that must have been done well because we were very successful compared with many similar organisations in other places. So it didn't just happen. I mean, we're all grateful for it, but it didn't just happen.
Yeah, thank you for that, Peter. I'm sorry I gave. Sorry, Jerry. I was thinking of Peter. Thank you for that, and for the work that Peter did, and Richard and others, and yourself to bring those grants to fruition. And I think there was a huge amount of work there, and I stand corrected in not highlighting that earlier. Thank you.
I would then. Teresa, I'm a supporter and a volunteer. What's the players' viewpoint on competition now with the town hall that seems to be doing quite a lot of events? We don't seem to be actively doing anything. You know, at the weekends, the town hall was pretty keen to get people through the doors. I don't see that in the plan.
Richard, would you like to respond?
Yeah, all I can say is we've just reopened. You know, we're sort of getting back to doing what we've been doing. We've lost most of our hirings have disappeared, so we're sort of rebuilding things gradually, and we are beginning to add things in. Like we've got some Lego-based animation sort of play stuff going on, and skateboarding happening here. And there's 2 little examples, but we will, you know, try and build back. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, we don't see them as competition. It's just all part of the tapestry of what's going on in Torrington, really, isn't it? And we need to, you know, work together for the benefit of everybody here, really. So yeah.
Is it Tracy?
Teresa.
Teresa, does that answer your question?
I think at the minute, I you know, I live in town. I don't know. I mean, look at the ages here. You know, there is no youth. And I've said this. I'm coming in on Sunday for skateboarding. You know, we don't seem to be attracting any youth. And I've said this before at volunteer meetings and other things. And time is going on. And I know, you know, Sophie has tried and done, you know, brilliant work in the past. But we don't have the youth here now. Why are we not getting the youth in?
Do you want to comment on that,
Sophie,
Trina?
you're probably better to answer that than I am.
Well, I think it's a mixture of programme and how the building feels actually. I think that is what attracts young people. But ultimately, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily expect to see young people at an AGM, I must say, but. But I do think we've got an absolute ambition but we need to attack that quite strategically and finding out and engaging with young people, which we do because there's a setup that Sophie and Richard have created where feedback from young people is heard. We need to do more of that work and establish a programme that suits and attracts. And part of that, I think, will be perhaps less of the work that attracts an older demographic. Because for a young person looking at the brochure probably right now will think this is a place for older people. So we've got to do something about it, but it has to be, it has to work across all the functions of the organisation, I think, in order to really make it a destination for young folk.
Can I say something?
Sophie.
So just in response to what Teresa's saying and just generally after, working here for 7 years and building up and outreach work and closely working with young people, it's evident that they are passionate about this place, that they love the feel of this place when they come to a workshop, but there seems to be like some separatism when there's events and maybe things going on in the evening, and also the feel of the cafe in comparison to what they may want to see as young people, because a lot of the work with Plough Future, their key thing that they wanted was sweets and cakes and sausage rolls and that sort of thing, and get them through the door. But it depends where you want to go, and I think this business plan is going to do a lot for the Plough because it will give you more focus as to where you want to go. And I think as part of that consultation with young people with Plough Future, I think it's really important to take their ideas on board and actually implement them in the business plan if you can, and maybe get some young people on the board itself. I think that would be really positive for the future.
So, thank you, Sophie. I'm slightly aware that the streaming microphones are probably not picking up the comments on the floor, but it's going to be difficult to. They are. Oh, good, excellent. Right. Thank you very much. What Sophie has said is, I think we've taken on board, and we all agree with. Is that right, Vin? Okay, thank you. I think I'm afraid there's a film going on here in a quarter of an hour, and we have to be out. Otherwise, we'll be in terrible trouble. So, is there any other urgent, pressing questions anybody would like to say? Okay. Is there any other business anybody would like to mention at this point? Phew. So, thank you very, very much for turning up, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is a very important meeting for the Plough. It's been great to have you. The date of the next meeting, I believe, will be the 7th of... 19th. The 19th of October 2022. I hope to see you there. Thank you very much.
If not before.
Yes, preferably.